Welcome back to my channel for another Leica SL3-S episode. So this is the newest family member of the Leica SL system camera lineup from Leica. And in my introductory video not too long ago, I already showed the multi-shot mode in the menu, and I also presented a sample image from the beautiful city Lucerne in Switzerland. And it's kind of breathtaking what you can do with this multi-shot mode, because we can actually do multi-shot handheld, and that is something completely new in the Leica world, and is actually not something you find very often overall in the camera world. There are only a few examples where I'm aware that you can do multi-shot handheld. I think in the Olympus world that's possible, but in most of the camera brands I'm familiar with, like Sony, Nikon, Fuji and so on, you always have to place your camera safely on a tripod in order to avoid shakes and vibrations. And that used to be the case also for the SL2 and for the SL2S, but for the SL3S now, we actually can do this handheld. And the manual for the Leica SL3S is not very outspoken about the new multi-shot mode. There are not that many explanations. It's all on one half page, and you see it here in front of you on the screen. And that's why I thought maybe I should actually explain and experiment a little more to provide some data points how this all is working and what the different options are you find in the menu. And it was also requested by comments in the comment section under my most recent video about the Leica SL3S. And if you have not seen it yet, look it up. I'll post a link down below in the info box. And now let's get this started. My ambition for 2025 is to grow the number of subscribers of this channel here beyond 100,000, and highly likely that's totally unrealistic. But you guys helped me big time towards the end of 2024 by crossing the 50,000 subscriber mark, and that's something I really appreciate. I'm super grateful for it. Let's see what we can do this year. And if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so, hit the notification bell, share my videos, and in this way help to grow the reach of my content. And now let's go into the multi-shot mode of the Leica SL3S. Alright, so this finally is my own unit of the Leica SL3S. I purchased it from the Leica store in Zurich. Can only recommend, if you visit Zurich, don't miss the Leica store. Go there, have some nice conversations with the people working there. It's good friends of mine, and you will always learn something about Leica gear, but you also have a huge selection of things you can choose from, and it's always worth a visit. Trust my judgment. Alright, so that's my own Leica SL3S. Mounted I have currently the Summicron 50mm, widest open aperture is an f2.0. That's what I will use in the menu. You see it here, f2.0. The model I'm going to shoot for my illustration here is my always super patient model Jennifer in front of me on the table. You see her face is recognized here, and her eyes are also recognized. And if I go into the menu here, I'm on autofocus continuous. You see this here. And I also have here activated center weighted metering. And I have activated here face, body detection, eye detection, in terms of tracking. Well, my model will not move, but I think it's useful for me to have it in this way. And you see nicely how it works here with the focus field and the points who indicate the eyes of Jennifer. And the first learning point I want to provide here is, if we go into multi-shot mode, let's go here into drive mode. And in drive mode, let's go all the way down to multi-shot. And then we go into settings. The moment in time I activate it, let's say we go here to handheld for a moment, continuous autofocus is no longer available. Have a look. If I go here into the menu, it switched to autofocus single. You see this here? No autofocus continuous as I had it before in the settings. And if I tap on it, you see there's only manual focus and autofocus single. So continuous autofocus is not possible with the multi-shot mode, and it's more than natural because you don't want to have moving subjects in the scene, so there will be nothing to track. And that's why face, body, eye detection still works, but continuous autofocus is gone. It's all AFS. The next point I want to make, let's go back into the menu here. Of course, I can go in multi-shot and use it in the same way as I used it with my SL2 and the SL2S on a tripod. And then I have also motion artifacts correction here. I can deactivate it, I can activate it. And the difference is that if it is activated, slight movements, tiny little movements, for instance, if you photograph a person, will be corrected in camera automatically. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't have any artifacts if moving subjects become irregular and in some way more severe than just having a little bit of shaking your head. And is something that works only on a tripod. If I go here to the mode again and go into handheld, this option is not even available. And I think I demonstrated in real life shooting in my last video on the SL3S, when I did shoot the beautiful city of Lucerne, that this really works, and the image looked really good and stunning. You saw it at the beginning of the video. And what I want to do here is I will just focus on Jennifer and go through these different options. Let's look here into file format. I showed in my last video DNG. That's just a raw file which comes out of the Multishot. The cool thing with the Leica SL3S is you do not need, like you need for Nikon, Sony and Fuji, external software to process the frames. And we also saw before, when I quickly showed you this half page in the manual of the SL3S, that this is all based on pixel shift. Means there are 8 different frames and the scene is moved by less than a pixel in 8 different directions, and then the images are combined in camera, so you don't have any post-processing work to generate that high resolution frame, and you can use it then immediately in post-processing, and the best choice in my opinion is DNG. Now if you also want to have a JPEG in the large format or the medium format, you can choose this here. And what I have done here for the Leica SL3S under storage, let me quickly show you. So I'm here in, let's go and continue here to storage management. And I've set this up in a way that my DNGs end up on the Compact Flash Express Type B card, because that's the fast card, there is no bottleneck, and I typically shoot DNG only. But if I have a JPEG file coming from a shot, it should end up on the SD card. And the SD card is much slower, but the JPEG file is also, in terms of size, much smaller. And that's the way I have set this up. Let's go back here into drive mode. And let's go back into Multishot. So that's another learning point I wanted to provide here. Then we have DNG and medium-sized JPEG, that's self-explanatory. And then we have LJPEG, 96 megapixels. So if you think you don't need the full spectrum of options in post-processing, you can go for JPEG only. So let's go into these JPEG versions only. So LJPEG 96 megapixel, MJPEG 48.1 megapixel. Let's take a shot and let's compare them. Let's go for the first one here. Let's go back. Jennifer is recognized. Let's try to get the shot done. Let's see if it processes. That looks good. Creating multi-shot image. I like it. Really nice. And that's it. Let's double tap here. And you see Jennifer is recognized sharp and crisp. I like that. Let's go to the other one, 48.1 megapixel. Back into the menu. Drive mode, multi-shot settings, file format, MJPEG, 48.1 megapixel. Let's go for this one. Let's see if it processes. Okay, that's frustrating. Creation of multi-shot image failed. Let's try to do this again. Failed again. Okay, so I'm getting used to failure here. Another failure. Okay, that's really not good. And it's getting frustrating, of course. Let's try to really keep the camera steady and calm here and get this shot finally done. Let's hope and pray. This looks better. Creating multi-shot image. The camera seems to be in the newest firmware much more sensitive. I remember taking that shot from the bridge in Lucerne, which you saw at the beginning of the video. And I did this freely handheld. Here I'm currently having my two hands resting on the table in front of me. and trying to keep the camera very steady and calm. And I'm sure I had more tiny little shakes and vibrations when I took that shot of the bridge in Lucerne, which you saw before. And it always worked. There was no problem. So it seems that the newest firmware has made the multi-shot mode a bit more sensitive to tiny little shakes and vibrations. I will discuss with Leica and come back to you to see what this means. But now let's compare these two images. We have here on the play mode, we have one with 48 megapixel, JPEG only. We have one with 96 megapixel. Let's quickly look into them in Lightroom and let's find out if there's anything interesting to observe. Okay, so here are the two frames. On the left hand side, the 48.1 megapixel shot in the multi-shot mode handheld. And you see also the megapixel is exactly what it was in the menu, 48.1. And on the right hand side, the 96 megapixel shot. And both shots look very well. And if I crop in by 100%, and if you compare with the native resolution of the sensor, we have on the left hand side double the native resolution, and on the right hand side 4 times the native resolution of the sensor. And this is crisp, sharp, looks very good. I have not done any manipulation to these images, no post-processing, no nothing of course. Nice soft background bokeh based on the f2 setting on the Aposumicron 50mm, and that's what you get. But it's JPEG images, right? You don't have the full reserves, the full spectrum of options in post-processing if you go for JPEG only, as I was choosing it in the menu for these two images. We've now seen what comes out if we choose LJPEG standalone 96 megapixel and MJPEG standalone 48.1 megapixel. But let me break down that whole menu for you so you fully understand what's going on here. The number of files and what files you find on your Compact Flash Express Type B or SD card depends of course on what you've set up under storage management. I showed before, I've done here a setting which means DNG always on Compact Flash Express Type B and JPEG always on SD card. But the most essential switch you have in the multi-shot mode is this one here. If Save One Single Shot is activated in the menu as you currently see it here, then always the camera will not only store the multi-shot, which is processed in camera, but also the single shot. And that's very useful because in case you would have any artifacts in the multi-shot coming from moving subjects in the scene, you still have a single frame with 24 megapixel, the native resolution of the sensor, which will be clean and without any artifacts. And if you activate that in the menu I showed before, the following happens. If in the file format you choose DNG, then the camera will store for you in the storage one DNG file which comes from the multi-shot processed in camera with 96 megapixel and one single shot in the raw format DNG with 24 megapixel. If under file format you choose DNG plus large JPEG, the camera will store for you 4 different images. One DNG with 96 megapixel, one DNG with 24 megapixel, one JPEG with 96 megapixel, one JPEG with 24 megapixel. If under file format you choose DNG plus MJPEG, the camera will store for you one DNG with 96 megapixel, one DNG with 24 megapixel, one JPEG with 48.1 megapixel and one JPEG with 24 megapixel. Consistently, if you choose LJPEG only, you get no DNGs at all, but one JPEG with 96 megapixel and one JPEG with 24 megapixel. And if you choose MJPEG, you get one JPEG with 48.1 megapixel and one with 24 megapixel. So you always have a single frame, a single shot at your disposal in case something goes wrong with the multi-shot if you activate Save One Single Shot. Of course, if you deactivate Save One Single Shot, then the 24 megapixel frames I had before, they are all no longer stored and you only rely on the multi-shot. That means if artifacts are ruining your image, you have no fallback, and that's why I recommend to keep Save One Single Shot on at all times. Last but not least, here is an important tip, and you saw me failing on the 48.1 megapixel multi-shot 3 times in the course of the video. Let's go back to that setting here and let me try this again. And I want to show you something which might help you a lot in handheld multi-shot shooting. Let's go here. Let's go to Jennifer. Let's make that shot. Let's see if it processes. It failed. And I think one of the reasons why it fails is my first shot, when I released the shutter, might be a little bit off. And there's one setting in the menu which helps you to overcome this. Let's go there. And I originally thought here the self timer, and that's what I said in my first introductory video on the Leica SL3-S, is only useful if you are in tripod mode. But it actually, and that's something I experienced now, is also useful in handheld mode. Let's try to repeat the 48.1 megapixel multi-shot with self timer activated for 2 seconds. Watch and see. Highly likely it will now process the multi-shot and not fail because my pointing finger didn't mess up with the first frame. See? Now it's working. So that self-timer setting in the menu actually has meaning also in handheld shooting. And that's the last tip I wanted to provide. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel, there's always more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy, and of course, peace out.